Good evening, everybody, and welcome to September's edition of Babes with Books. And we're really happy to tune in with you on this blustery, rainy fall day here in Alberta, where we are.
Good day to be talking about books.
I know, yes. We read this past month a book called Speak, and it is by Laurie Halse Anderson. It is considered a young adult book, and it is an older book, and it did win the Prince Award for Excellence in Young Adult Literature when it was out. And this book is about a young girl who has experienced sexual assault. And she goes back to school in September, and she has everything bottled up inside. And the book is it goes through the school year and her process of being whether or not she's able to move on, I guess, is how I would describe this book. It's a very descriptive book in that that's how I felt. So this is my opinion. It's a really descriptive book. And the whole writing style really walks through kind of thought processes. I felt like it was almost like reading a recipe. Not for everybody, but it was very almost step-like in how she moved forward in her on her path kind of thing. It was very stream of consciousness, in my opinion, the writing. Mm-hmm. So her name is Melinda. I'm reading a book with the character Matilda, so I
too many books.
I liked this book. I read this book when it first came out. It was much buzzed about when it came out, and I was working in a bookstore, and I read it then, and I found it really striking then. I remember thinking that then. I didn't find it as striking this time around. I think that's age. I do think books, that it has a lot to do with it. I've really come to think. I think you can admire the writing, but it really matters on how a book resonates with you, with where you are in your life, I think.
Sometimes you read it the first time and it doesn't resonate with you, and you have to wait till you're a little bit older before you get it. I liked it. So do you? Well, I thought this was a great book. I enjoyed it. It was a quick read, and like you said, I enjoyed the short chapters and almost the stream of consciousness. It was almost like getting right into the head of a youth, and in some instances going back to when I was a youth and some of the things that I went through as far as, feeling like an outcast. And I don't think necessarily that you have to experience sexual assault to relate to Melinda.
No. I have something really lovely here that I'd like to read.
Oh, perfect.
At some point to kind of touch on that feeling.
So I definitely think that this book should be read by all parents, fathers, mothers, as well as all high school students at some point in their high school journey. I think even as early as grade 8, you could do this book.
I think depending on your teaching and your parenting, I think if we didn't have to worry about parents complaining, I think that stuff like this happens quite early nowadays. Mm-hmm. Puberty happens very fast in lives, and I think trying to navigate those waters of what's right and what's wrong and how to feel about things is, I think this is a really good way of letting it come across.
What about you? Did you like it?
I really liked it, not only for the message that's in it, but also I really liked the writing, because I'm doing some writing myself, and to see some of those descriptions, like pieces of metal slicing through my veins when she sees it in the hall, just that kind of writing is what I am aspiring to, and that really make you visualize, make you really be in that character's
I love those sentences that make you stop.
I stopped the truck and wrote it down because I loved it so much. So I really liked it, and I have teenagers that are this age, and I agree with Leslie that every parent, every teacher, every teenager, starting at fairly young as well, that should read this book. It's really, really well written. And really
she's quite young in it. She's 14, right? Mm-hmm. She's 14 in this book, so the character is quite young, and I think you could introduce this.
And this book was written in 1999, so it is an older book. So I have a few questions about that a little bit later. But I do want to remind everybody that's listening right now and watching us live, because we do this live. If you have questions or comments or anything like that, please let us know, and we will try and answer your questions and comments on air as best we can. If you're joining us after the fact, then you can definitely comment, and we will definitely respond to you after the fact as well. So
yeah, we do try to look at the comments throughout the month, so if you have anything to say. Before we head too far in, I discovered this when I was looking for sort of the write-up about the book. And on the 10th anniversary of Speak, Laurie Halse Anderson wrote a poem in honor of that. And I thought we would just read a couple of moments of it. It does say, with the exception of the first and last stanzas, all of the words come from letters or emails written to her by readers. So it says, I wasn't raped, but my dad drinks. But I hate talking. But my brother was shot. But I'm an outcast. But my parents split up. But I am clanless. But we lost our house. But I have secrets, 7 years of secrets, and I cut myself. My friends cut. We all cut to let out the pain. And then it continues on. Melinda is a lot like this girl I know. No, she's a lot like me. I am Melinda Sarah. I am Melinda Religio. I am Melinda Megan. Melinda Amber. Melinda Stephanie Tori. Philip, Nadia, Tiara, Mateo, Christina, Beth. It keeps hurting, but. This book cracked my shell. It keeps hurting. I hurt, but your book cracked my shell. So those are some responses, and kind of why we're almost emphatically saying that this is a great book to expose your teens to.
yeah.
So
Where do we go now? There's
right?
so many places we could go.
I liked this question. Is there, so this book is called Speak because she just can't seem to get a lot out. She's very quiet throughout her school year, really transformed from the girl that she might have been before, and there's a lot of descriptive words about her trying to get words out or how it's stuck, and so this question is there a relationship between speaking and listening, and can one exist without the other? And I liked that because I don't feel that without speaking, Melinda could have been listened to more, and so I do think that relationship's there. Like, why did she have to speak? For this world to know what was happening. And I think that's part of the themes of this book, is that these parents and these teachers and these friends don't know.
And the fact that I think a lot of times youth and adults, we don't speak up because we don't think anyone's going to listen anyway. And I think Melinda really felt that when she did finally start finding her voice, and she was trying to anonymously tell people that, you know, or her friend, quote unquote, old friend, that, you know, you got to watch out for this guy. She didn't feel confident enough to kind of go and say, this is what happened to me, but please watch out. And when her friend confronted her about that, it was kind of like, oh, you're just jealous. So it kind of goes both ways. Like, we should hear and listen even if someone's not speaking, but at the same time, do we listen enough for people to feel like they can speak?
Yeah, like there is a lot of places in the book and a lot of places in our everyday lives that people shouldn't have to tell us what's going on. We should see those things, and they can speak without words, right? And we should be aware, and we should be more in the moment with the people that we're with, so that we see those things before they have come to.
And do we not listen because is it one of those like, oh, society's in a hurry, or do we not listen because we're still so scared of these things that we say we're confronting, right? Like Bell Let's Talk Day, depression and mental illness. I think we've had a few books that this has come up. Are we ready to listen? Or are they equal? Are we ready to listen? And do we just not know how to listen? Or is it one more than the other? Where do you think we're sitting there?
And do we just feel awkward, right? Is that what you're like?
Yeah.
Someone says something, it's like, oh, I don't know how to deal with this. And do we then just pass people off and say, you know what, I have the perfect person that you need to talk to. Like, here's a therapist, here's a counselor, here's a when it's you that they came to and said this.
I had a girlfriend go through a rough time lately, and I Googled what to say to a friend going through a hard time. It didn't help because her hard time was nowhere on there, and they really didn't connect. But I just didn't want to say the wrong thing. Like, I was so But I wanted to say the right thing too. I really wanted to be there and wanted to say the right thing, but was so worried about saying the wrong thing that I don't think I ended up saying anything, actually, honestly. Which is hard. Yeah.
Sometimes I think we struggle with just sitting and listening, because sometimes they just need us to shut the hell up and just listen.
Yeah, and a lot of times we feel like, oh, they're telling us something, let me fix it. And it's like, I don't want you to fix it, so that's why I'm not telling you about it. I just, yeah.
Fixing, and I'm bad. I'm a big talker, and I like to talk it out. But that doesn't mean everybody else does. So something I've tried to actually think about consciously is if someone's coming to me, that I don't have to like add my own story. I don't have to make it okay by saying, oh, this happened to someone else.
Yeah.
Just let it be happening to them is something that I've tried to work on for listening, because I don't think that happens as often as people need.
So one thing that when I was reading this book, so I read this book and then I finally got to 13 Reasons Why on Netflix.
Which is why I chose this book, because that was like all crazy popular this summer, and my husband watched it, and I was like, I think Speak did it a lot better, and he was like, no, and so I chose this.
Yeah. So I thought that one thing that this book lacked after watching 13 Reasons Why really is because of when it was written, 1999. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have Twitter and Snapchat and Facebook and all those fun things that we like to play with nowadays. It lacks that social media. Like when I was a kid, I related to this. This was written when I was in high school. And so, you know, the stuff that happened to me, you might be ridiculed by your grade, or you might be picked on by the people around you, your friend group. But we didn't have that. Now everyone knows because it's on Facebook and because it's on Snapchat or social media in some way, shape, or form.
And that's what happens in that show, right?
And that's what happens in that show. And I think do you think it, I guess that my question is, do you think it's harder now for teens, or is it the same?
I think it's the same because it's what they know. Yeah, I think it's,
Still relatable for them?
I think that it's the same because it's what they know. If they knew something different, then they would want those days back where it wasn't as wide. But to them, this is just the reality of life. And so the good things are known wide and the bad things are known wide. And I don't know that emotions are made bigger or smaller because of it.
No, and I don't think that's what I as far as harder, like I just think as far as what we need to prepare people for in life is a lot different. Like before we had to prepare them for how to deal with something when your friends aren't talking to you anymore, or when something horrific happens to you. Now we have to say, okay, here's how to deal with that, and social media, and that everything you do on social media is going to affect things down the road. Yeah. There's just so much more that I think they have to deal with, that it can be overwhelming. Not that it wasn't overwhelming for us, but how do we help them with that? Or can we? Maybe they have to help each other.
Yeah, we just have to give them those safe places that they can speak about this stuff and help them understand that it happens to so many of them, and that's one thing that's good about social media, and that actually happens in the book kind of too, but not so social media, it gets written on the wall in the toilet.
No, I love that point, Shauna.
Yeah.
That's a huge good point.
Yeah, so that's how her writing it on the wall in the bathroom
that's her first time she really lets go of it.
Others have the chance to, oh yeah, he's such a jerk, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so social media lets them do that too. So that's
I like that
kind
point.
of a good thing in social media, that they can have those conversations.
I think you could find strength from social media as well.
Having the same issue.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think that taking social media away, there's a lot of parents out there that are like, you can't do Snapchat, you can't do Twitter, and you can't have screen time, and your iPad has to go away. And I really I don't have kids, so I'm speaking with that caveat, but I don't think that's the answer. I think that just compounds things, because then now you're taking them out of that group that they're trying to find solace in some way, shape, or form, and maybe that's the only way that you're connected. How many times did I go home right after school and then phone my best friend and talk for hours? And my mom was like, well, you just, in 5 minutes ago.
I know, like in 1999. We talk about Snapchat streaks nowadays, like cool phone calls. There were days I'd be on that phone for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous, actually.
We have some comments
Awesome.
from the audience here. From Shannon. Was there a defining moment in the book for any of you?
At the very end.
Yeah.
I was so happy at the very end and how it resolved. And I don't know if I should say it because I don't know what stage people are at. But when I'm just going to say when she finally speaks up and then exacts her
Well, she finds strength.
She finds strength. Yeah. That's what I'll say. At the very end, that was the defining moment for me. And throughout the whole thing, it was like a journey of trying to. It just was really well written. It really pulled you in and made you feel like you were in the head of this young girl. So.
I think I like the moment where she starts to find happiness at home, because I think we can give high school a lot of weight. And it can carry a lot of weight for a number of years after high school. But I'm a big believer in family and strength there. And strength in yourself. And so she starts to, she finds a hobby. She finds gardening at home. And she starts to explore it. Very good symbolism of things growing anew and springing out of the earth. And the relationship with her parents start changing, and the relationship's pretty negative up till then. Her parents are very busy, and she's nearly invisible to them throughout this year. And there's some really good little spots there of like a teenage girl being invisible to her parents, going from like a size 8 to a size 12 within half a year, and no one noticing something like that, and what that would mean emotionally for a teenage girl. So I really liked that moment because I think that. Well, even that strength, like what happens at the high school and how she does kind of give her own. I think years down the road, if she was friends with her father, a lot of other stuff would fade or have been fixed. And then that's my part. And maybe that's coming from being a parent too. But I like that moment.
What about you? Defining moment?
Oh gosh. That sentence that I had to stop the truck. I'm serious. I had to stop the truck when she first saw him. But I was listening. I wasn't reading and driving. I should make that kind of clear. I was listening to the story and the author.
Okay, so you had this in an audio book.
Reading was amazing. But so I had to stop the truck and write that down. I think that was.
I will say
when she saw him.
I
have
read
time.
and driven at the same time. Oh dear. Okay. It was when I was much
So
younger.
So we have
just put it on the steering
comments here.
wheel.
I like
Okay.
Don't do that.
This is towards the social media comments we were talking about earlier from Jason. There is far more to deal with now. I agree with Leslie. I actually find that ignorance can be bliss, even if it is bad bliss. The children are bombarded by far more information. And Mari as well here. I think sometimes they learn too much too soon, and it changes the way they view the world. There's a skepticism that we didn't have until later in life.
I am going through something with my child who's under 10, and it's one of those moments that came too soon, and I don't know how it happened. And like, it's nothing extremely bad, but it is like it's nothing even bad. It's just a moment that came too soon, and I feel stressed about it. So I can appreciate that comment. I just think, well, how can I go backwards here? Because I think you definitely realize there's so much time on the other side as an adult. So just give it a break there.
We didn't have the internet, for sure. And it must be scary sometimes. And there was actually a really good little performance that the grade 8 class did a couple of years ago for the Remembrance Day. And it was when there had been the attack on, like, someone was shooting at the monument there. And the grade 8s put on this little thing, and it was pictures of their texts sort of idea that we're sending back and forth about how scared they were and how it made it so real for them. So that normally wouldn't have been, like, back when we were in grade 8, we would have heard our parents talking about it. We certainly wouldn't have been watching the news. And
Even
It
if
would have, though, for those things that really resonated worldwide, right? Because people watched.
When
September
the wall
11th
came
was watched
down.
in school.
Yeah.
September 11th was watched in school.
True.
Airspace things were watched in school.
Yeah.
JFK, I know my stepmother talks about like learning that JFK was shot.
Well, and I remember the wall coming down. I watched that on
Yeah,
TV.
okay.
Right? But yeah, it wasn't something that you then have a conversation about with your friends. Like I don't really.
it was just you saw it on the news, you knew it was there,
Maybe
you talked
talk to
about
your
it in
parents a
social
little bit.
studies, but
I don't know. It just.
The part I don't like about this is
maybe
that
youth are just better than us.
No,
these
but like
days.
that's actually the part I don't like about it is they don't talk about the real part of it. Even myself, like I don't really feel where do I go for news nowadays? Because I don't really want to go to the 140 character Twitter.
And how much is it of it is fake?
Yeah, it's hard.
I don't know.
It's a weird world, but
Fake
that's kind
news.
of. So I have a question about this book, and it relates to 13 Reasons Why, and it's kind of the way I struggle a little bit with it. Do you feel? I don't know how to word this question actually, so I'll stumble through it. I feel like why do we talk so much about the bad things and the good thing only happens in the last 10 pages? I felt like with both of these stories that have been big for YA, that instead of having like 180 pages of I survived this and I am moving on, it's like 175 pages of I don't think I'm going to survive this. Oh, wait a moment. Maybe I will. And I worry. And again, this came up with 13 Reasons Why more, that this show talks about after someone committed suicide. It's not talking about, hang on, like, I wanted to, or I thought about it, and then I didn't, and here's 13 reasons why I didn't. And, yeah, I don't know if this book necessarily tells someone to speak up. It goes through an experience of how she eventually gets there. But do you think a teenager reading this book would think, oh yeah, I'm just going to speak up now? Because look, it turned out for her in those last 5 pages.
So
is my question coming
no,
across?
it is, and it goes really
it goes
well
well
with
with
what
this.
has just been said on here.
Okay. Okay.
I wonder.
This is
This
bothering
is
me.
from Jean-Paul JB. I wonder though that the ending isn't a touch too optimistic and sends a message that isn't necessarily realistic for everyone. I would actually say that it was a bit jarring and took me out of the story when suddenly, just because she's speaking, everyone is magically back on her side.
Yeah, see, for you to have that ending be like the moment, I was like, what? Say what?
No, and I agree with that. I was happy she finally did what she did.
Yeah.
But I definitely agree that I was like, oh, it's not over. And I think for me, to answer your question now, I think if you had most of the book be about the recovery and whatnot, that's not where a lot of people are at. It's the struggle is in trying to come to terms and trying to learn to speak up and all of that type of thing. And if you just talk about all the rosy stuff afterwards, or 13 reasons why not, why I didn't do it, and why things got better, that's not reality for
When
the
you're
people
in-
that need to
when
have
you're
these
in that dark
conversations.
spot.
But I feel like, see, and I don't know, that's what I'm wondering. Does this provide a conversation, or is it just entertainment? Is this taking, like, is this a great message? Is this, I mean, I did say at the beginning of the show, yeah, it's, like, I really think that this book is admirable, but this is just, I hate the word devil's advocate, but it is another thought that arose in my head about this story is, are we providing entertainment, or are we providing help?
But I think
What
that's
should
why
fiction
we
do?
have to talk about books like this rather than just have them on the shelf and here, go ahead and read it, and I hope you get something out of it. Which is why it's good that it's being done in schools. I believe that the grade 10 class in our community is doing it right now, and I hope they have real conversations about it.
Do you think if someone was suffering through this, like someone in a grade 10 class, this has happened to them, they get assigned Speak, they read it, they go through it, and then they sit down and they're having like this massive conversation, do you think that this book is actually going to give someone the possibility to stand up in that class and say, oh, actually,
Oh, no, definitely not.
Standing up in the class, but it might give them a little bit more courage to maybe take a step.
I think this book is better for the listeners.
Yeah.
The people who need to listen.
Yeah, I think it's better for the parents and the people.
Or even friends, like friends that need to acknowledge that they might have someone going through this. For someone going through this, I don't know if there is a book that's going to get them through it.
No.
But I think this book is for the people who are listening or need to know how to listen, I guess.
Yeah.
Better for girls, better for boys, doesn't matter.
I think it's good for boys to read too, especially we talk about the rape culture stuff and all that, because the boy character in this book really did not feel like he was doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it might tweak something, I hope it would tweak something in some of those boys that are borderline on that, or boys that are seeing that and say, you know what, dude, that's not the right thing to be doing. I'm hoping, I'm kind of a...
You're not even as bad as me. I'm sitting over
I'm
here
always
hoping that there's no boys like that. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
right? Like, there's no teenage boys that are actually thinking they could.
There is.
But I know there is. But yeah, my brain just wants to be like, no.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
But what about the story that needs to be told about the boy who has done something like this and is trying to come to terms within himself?
Is there
as well?
Is there stories like that?
Is there? I don't know. I wonder if there is. And why don't we talk about that? Because
we went through this issue last month about characters that are not written about.
Yeah.
Remember?
Did we find an older woman that wasn't
like a curmudgeon
woman
that we
didn't.
still like? That we don't think is an awful person.
Yeah, I don't know. But I think it's I don't want to say that you don't know what you're doing or you, but
Here we go.
gosh, this is a tough call. But like, okay, so a guy gets in a compromising situation with a girl, he ends up raping her, and
Do you think he
doesn't
got nothing that whole year?
realize that she didn't want it, and then realizes,
So what happens to that guy?
oh my gosh,
where does
I
the story
raped
go for
someone.
him?
Where does the story go for him? And him coming to terms with that.
Yeah, like we're not going to say that the character in this is guilt free. Let's just
Oh, no,
let's
he's
just
not
take
guilt-free.
no. I know. Like I'm with you on this.
Yeah.
So let's just take a different path though. Like let's go back and replay this event from his mind. They're both drunk, right? They're both drunk. They're at a party, and yeah, it goes sour when a line is crossed, right?
Yeah.
Which is usually, I think, what happens. I think there can be a lot of consent for a while, with friendly consent, dancing, and then that consent is taken away, and they refuse to acknowledge that. But I think their brain doesn't always process that consent was taken away. So yeah, what happens to that
There's a
young
really
boy?
good TED Talk that I can't remember now, and I will post it in the comments down below or later if I can. But it was a woman and a man, and
It's gonna
he,
cost that.
yeah, right. He raped her.
Okay.
Later on in life, she confronted him, reconciled. It was a similar situation, and they now tour around together, and they've
Talk about
they
their
talk about
experiences.
their experience and his experience, kind of coming out of that and the realization of what
We'll try
he
to
did.
find the link for that and
So,
post it on below in our comments.
I
after
think
we're done.
stories like that are just as important.
Oh yeah, they're
Yeah.
hugely. I think that we often look at rape from a female perspective.
Yeah.
So it's like also saying guys never get raped too,
Yeah.
right? And there is sexual assault against males.
Yeah.
So, and sexual assaulters don't.
And a lot of times it's like,
Don't
oh,
always
come on,
walk
you're a
away
guy.
free.
What do you mean you don't want it, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's not true too. So,
Yes.
wow, our time is almost up.
It
Any more
is.
comments?
Do we have any
from-
comments or questions?
Yeah, we have one more. Maybe it should be balanced. Oh, this is regarding the ending and the skew. But maybe it should be balanced, 2 steps forward and 1 back, so that when she reaches the final better moment, you can see she has been trying different ways to get there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we didn't even get into her friends or anything like that, because that's a really interesting relationship. That's all outside of, like, you can even take the rape out of this book and write about female friendships in high school, right?
They abandoned her, basically.
Yeah. I had a girlfriend say something really interesting to me about friendships recently, and it was like one of those epiphany moments. And she talked about how she feels like friendships for kids, that they're often taught they're kind of disposable. You know, you're on the playground and someone doesn't play with you, just go play with someone else. Don't worry about it. Like, just find a new friend. You switch classrooms and then they don't have the person.
That's okay.
Last
You'll
year.
make
Don't
new
worry.
friends.
Have a new one. Find a new friend. She said that she really has thought about that and tried to focus on making sure that her kids understand that friendships shouldn't be disposable, that there are ups or downs, and that you know, you can go through changes, and that, but to try and find something that can continue to bring you together as friends, and that she thinks that this way we're taught about friendships can then impact our bigger relationships as we get older, like marriage. And it was a total I was like,
that's a really good point.
Crazy. I know, right?
She's a smart lady.
We're totally, like, that's what we tell our kids. Like, oh no, like, if they don't want to play with you, just go find someone else. Just go find someone else. Instead of saying, you know what, like, why don't you see what you can do to make that work? Yeah, and so I found that interesting with these friendships in this book, right? Like, instead of, and friendships in high schools especially, as those kids start changing, really, like, they start figuring out that adulthood just a little bit, who they're going to be, right, outside of just this one mold that fits most kids, we start abandoning these friendships instead of saying, how can we keep this together, even if one plays sports and one does art, and what brought us together and what can keep us there, and that's
it's a really good life lesson for marriage. And
well, that's what she said.
Yeah.
Like, when you then look at marriage, and it's like, just go find someone else. Like, why not?
You don't need
You're
to
not
make
getting
it
along
work.
now.
Yeah, it's okay. People fall out of love.
Really
all the time.
interesting, right?
Yeah,
I know.
Wow.
I know.
It's a whole other show.
We've just solved the world.
Someone else solved it for me. So,
at any rate, we started the conversation. We hope you will continue it. There's a lot more to talk about with this book.
Yeah. Continue it with us if you'd like. Yeah. We'd love to hear more comments and questions throughout the month.
Yeah, absolutely. Next month, we have something a little bit different, which is exciting. We have some authors coming on our show. There's 4 authors, actually. Adam Dries, Catherine Dell, Susie Vidori, and Sarah Johnson. They'll be here to talk about their books. They'll be here during the day to kind of have conversations and sign copies of their books, and then they'll be on Babes with Books at 7 o'clock. So hopefully you can join us at that time as well. It should be super exciting. Also, we have a draw.
I just wanted to say for that next month, if there's any budding authors out there, anybody trying to write your own book, make sure that you can come to us with questions, and if you have them beforehand, send us a message and we'll make sure that we get them on there. These are published authors, and they probably have insights as to how they got where they did. Yeah, it's a big process.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have a draw each month, and all you have to do to enter the draw is like the event or post that you're attending the event on Facebook, and we will enter you in the draw. So we have some people that did that this month, and they win a $10 gift certificate at Pandora's Books. And we have Mickey Mickelson, who has won. So congratulations, Mickey. You can pick that up the next time you are in, or Facebook us, and we can get that to you. So
good evening. Have a great September, and we will see you in
Happy
October.
winter reading.
See you in a month.
Yeah.